Hey guys, it's Wade here. I wanted to discuss with you my throttle handle since I'm putting in the throttle and the mixture cables going all the way back to the fuel injection servo. I'll also have another cable that comes off of the pilot throttle handle slash lever that goes back and is slave to the gallon back throttle handle. So circa late 2015, somewhere 2016, somewhere in there, I don't remember exactly when, I picked up this F15 throttle handle, actually half of one. It controls the starboard engine in an F15. It's the inboard throttle handle, which works perfectly for me. I've already converted all the switches and the buttons and everything that I'm going to use them for. I put this as a brand new switch right here, and then this right here is the push to talk. Honestly, I don't remember what these two buttons are for, but critically, this switch right here is for the nose gear, up and down, in and out, however you want to say it, deployed, undeployed. And then the same goes for this switch right here, which is for the belly board, the air brake. I can't remember the name of it right now. But so this throttle handle, as robust as it is, with this cable and this connector that goes forward of the instrument panel, will replace this handle right here. Now normally this would be a little bit longer. This is actually the single version handle for the just the throttle, not the mixture. It's just a single lever, and that's what I have in the back seat. So I stole that because I don't even remember where this piece is for the front. This silver one right here is actually what I've been using, because quickly, when you get this from the manufacturer, this is actually set up for a tractor aircraft. These are mainly used, to my understanding, at least they're touted on aircraft spurs, for being for vans, aircraft, RVs. So the hole is on the front of the lever, which isn't a problem if I was going to use the same lever and I could just switch it around and put the hole in the back. Obviously my cables are coming in from the aft side, being a pusher airplane. However, for the mixture, because it's bent over to give it a lower profile, that's obviously an issue. So I'm going to have to work that. Okay, so why I wanted to show you this is because this cable right here presents a little bit of an issue. And I do have space, and you can see back here there's a standoff from the, let me try to get this back in focus. There's a standoff back there. It's just a hair under 5/8 of an inch to allow that cable to go back and forth. Obviously I don't want the cable bare, but one issue I have is the way the cable, where it exits on the inboard side of the lever. And so there's 3 and 3/3/16 inch threaded ports on the inboard, or technically the outboard, but on the mounting side of this F15 throttle handle that I'm going to use. So I want to bring the cable through the widened lever and then take it outside and put it down into that slot right there. And then I also want to have it protected so that obviously the cable is not dragging along this kind of somewhat sharp edge or dinging into either side. So that is the goal, and I've had that in mind literally for 5, 6, 7 years now, and I am going to machine that throttle handle lever in just a few minutes. So that is the backstory on this, and getting ready to finish this completely so that the throttle and the mixture, the cables, and even the guy in back throttle is all taken care of and put to bed, and I can press on and get to building other things. So to resolve the issue of running the throttle handle cable down the sidewall in between the sidewall and the throttle quadrant, which is just a hair under 0.6 inches, I need to make up a new throttle lever for the handle, and then also because I needed to move the hole up slightly for the actual throttle cable attachment. And then I'm actually attaching the slave throttle cable for the gallon back throttle, so I'm adding another hole. So there's a few different reconfigurations going on. So one issue I had is this is actually a test piece. I bought some 70-75 1/8 inch thick to actually use for that throttle handle, but I wanted to test it out first. This is a piece right here of 6061 T6 that I cut off of a rather large L bracket or L angle, and it's just wide enough, and it's a perfect test piece. And if it actually works out, I may actually end up using this. But one issue I had was this 1/8 inch flat piece. How do I secure it? And on the last video I did, which I've done a few machining projects since then for the engine side throttle cable bracket. Here's a picture of that, along with the associated throttle cable tab that the actual throttle cable goes through and then is screwed or bolted to the bracket. Here's a picture of that. And then lastly, I did two different versions, a 1/8 inch thick mixture cable bracket, and then I went ahead and here's the final version, which is this 3/16 inch 6061 mixture bracket. Here's a picture of that. The throttle cable bracket, by the way, is 70-75 aluminum. Anyway, back to this. So how do I mount this? Well, on the last machining video that I did, I had a comment from the wiliest coyote, and he mentioned adhesive work holding, which is discussed by John Saunders from the NYCNC, and it's pretty fascinating actually. So you use painter's tape on whatever surface you're mounting your piece to, and then you actually use painter tape on the back side of the piece that you're mounting. Now, I'm gonna go ugly early here, as I often do, and I'm gonna see if I can get away with using wood. So I don't think it's hopefully not a catastrophic failure because it's pretty secure. I let it dry for a little extra time, but and then when you put the tape on, you actually use a dowel or something and you really make sure it's on there. So I did a couple tests just to see how it's applying. It looks pretty good actually. So I'm gonna go ahead and try this out as a test and see how it works, and then we'll go on from there. If you're watching this, it worked well. If it didn't, you won't be seeing this. So kind of Schrodinger's cat right there, huh? All right, let's do this. There's a very slight lean from one side to the other, but it's not going to affect the outcome in any noticeable way. All right, so far so good. That's that slightly lower edge. Again, still looking pretty good. I'm impressed with that super glue and tape. Just going to clean up the edge. Okay, I have some fine detail right in here. So I'm going to run a 1/8 inch end mill just to get in here. I'll also be doing a spring pass with this final guy that'll just go around and make sure that everything is cleaned up on the final pass. I think I'm going to forego the spring pass just because this guy is so darn slow. He'll get the detail that I want. I don't need to do a whole nother round here. Alright. Since I stopped it early, we're not getting the usual where it kicks over to the end. So no fanfare. But I'm really impressed with how well that super glue and painter's tape held. I'm really super glad that the wiliest coyote told me about that. What a great little hack right there. Looking very good. So I'll be back and I'll have the cleaned up version. Okay, so here she is. I have to say, I'm really impressed with how that super glue and tape held. You can see a little bit of an edge right there. That's because I was messing around with the post-processing and I had this canted inside of the stock to not have that little bit of a curve. It's no big deal. It's just kind of a preference thing. And that's only if I keep this handle. I mean, if everything mocks up perfectly well, I'll probably just use this and clean it up a little bit. The only other issue I had, which was headspace timing issue on my part, was as I watched the end mill come around, it chopped the end of this thing off. And I thought, why in the heck is that so close? It left about 165 thousandths right there, which is a pretty decent little bit of meat. It's supposed to be 255 thousandths. Well, the reason why is because I went, instead of from the edge of this hole back here, in my haste, I went to the center of the hole. So of course that I thought I was losing steps or something, which I have the closed loop stepper motor. So I was like, that's kind of strange. Anyway, that being said, I did drill these out to hit them with the 440 thread taps on these four. And then I'm going to drill this out by hand. This is going to be an angle. This is about a 1/2 inch hole, but it's going to be angled so that the cable from the throttle handle, the F15 throttle handle, can go through there nice and smooth. Anyway, very impressed. Came out really nicely. Have to do a little bit of edge cleanup. Nothing much. Very nice. And again, the test was a smashing success. That is a great little hack. Okay, sports fans, here we go. I've got the throttle lever on the throttle handle. I've got the cable for the mini buttoned and mini switched F15 throttle handle. I've got the cable running through the hole, as you can see there. This would be on the inboard side, of course. There's four 440 socket head screws that are holding this plastic piece down in this area on, and then of course there's a 3/16 inch. This will be an AN3 bolt. So this is 3D printed with about 10% fill, so it's not anywhere near full strength. There's a little bit of cracking going on here because there is some stress. This is a little bit thin here. I'm going to bolster all the plastic up like this little bit right here. This will be thicker where I can. Now, when I put the throttle quadrant into the airplane on the sidewall. I put the nubs on the sidewall extending out in both directions, and so they kind of come into the area where this cable is going to go back and forth. I didn't want to have to do anything to those. If I didn't have to, I will, of course, if I need to for cable travel. But what I wanted was a little bit of flexibility, and that's why I designed this way, because this gives you about almost a ½ inch throw. So you can see that the cable, because it's so thick, I'll probably zip tie it down and try to get some, natural muscle memory going on this cable to get it, because it's going through here and then it's making another kind of hard turn. But this will be down here. That's what this cover is for. That's why there's a million little screws that are going to go on this cover to help pin this down. And then I'll have a zip tie right here, and honestly underneath with a nice thick plastic zip tie, as long as it's not hitting anything else. Really don't care if the zip tie is, occasionally kind of riding against the sidewall. I think the fiberglass is going to win out over plastic. So this will allow this to pivot back and forth like that. This is the proof of concept in the making right here. One thing I didn't account for, it's one thing to look at the cable and say, okay, well, we've got a little bit under ½ inch, but then routing a terminated wired cable, these things, when you bunch them all together, they're way over ½ inch. So that was kind of a little tricky. So that was probably the most difficult part, was getting these socket terminated wires, the bundle of them, through here and then through here. It wasn't too bad, but it really wreaked havoc on this little pivot guy right here, and I had to redesign this. I actually cut out a center channel piece that I had for a cross support, because I just couldn't get the wires up and around and through. So anyway, I'll look at that a little more. I just want to get this video out. I did, when I took the connector off, I did label every single one of these wires. I have a lot of reds, a lot of blacks, and a lot of greens. I want to make sure I don't screw any of them up, so I went ahead and just threw the number on there and labeled them up. Alright, so I'm going to put this into the airplane and let's see how that looks. Okay guys, last segment here. I'm going to freehand this. Here's that mounting nub that I was talking about. This has glass that goes up over this radius and then down the other side. This is what I want to try to avoid cutting into if I can. So that's why I tried to make this so it would pivot. It's not pivoting enough. I do have a decent little bit of clearance. I know it looks tight in there. I'm thinking about putting a very thin sheet of phenolic down below the water line here. But you can see there is room for this to pivot. As far as, I will add a little bit more in as far as clearance off the wall. I've got a fair amount of tape holding that cover on to try to hold that on. And you can see that the cable is actually making that bend in towards the wall a little bit. So if, like I said, down below the water line, I think if I add a little bit of slick phenolic, maybe sand away the overspray, that will do it. Here is the cable mount right there. I don't have the throttle cables and levers dialed in at all. I just threw this in to show you. There is the mounted throttle quadrant. Again, it's not going back as far or as forward as I need it to, but this is a good start. It's good data, and I can press forward from there. Again, I don't have the throttle or mixture cables. I have them hooked up, but I don't have them dialed in as far as the actual throw and the fuel servo back there. One last thing, as far as my throttle quadrant here in the front seat, I will probably move this up with a lever of some type so that it's up high and not below the seat line or down that far down low. But again, I'm also gonna, tomorrow I'm gonna put the actual seat cushions in and then sit in the cockpit and see how this feels height wise. I do want a decent clearance here, which I have right there. That was kind of got my guesstimate to be able to reach under here and throw that lever as far as the mixture. And then again, have this cable free and clear. This is a little tight, but there's a fair amount of tape on here, but I can work it. If need be, I can pull this out a little bit. I have room on the top of the armrest, and these have plenty of pivot room left and right still left in them to move this out maybe another 1/8 inch, 3/16 or even 1/4 of an inch, excuse me. So anyway, that's it. That is the throttle handle and the throttle lever. You can see the cable goes forward. It'll actually go on the inside through this little access hole down here by this duct. But and it I'll probably secure it down here with enough room for it to go back and forth. But again, that's it. Don't want this video to go too long. Thanks for watching. Cheers.